Have you ever stayed in a place that felt like it was watching you? A place so quiet that silence itself felt alive? Lake houses are supposed to be peaceful retreats where you unwind, unplug, and drift into nature's embrace. But sometimes, behind the scenic views and glassy waters, something darker lingers, something ancient, something that waits. These are not your average scary stories. These are real, disturbing accounts from people who thought they were simply getting away from it all, but ended up face to face with their worst nightmares. So dim the lights. Here's the first tale. My name's Lisa, and this happened during the summer of 2021, just a few months after I got out of a toxic relationship. My therapist had recommended solitude. Get away, recharge, rediscover yourself. I took her advice and booked a solo trip to a lake house deep in the Adirondacks. It was a cozy little cabin with a dock, a canoe, and no cell service. Perfect, I thought. The first 2 days were uneventful. Peaceful even. I read, took naps in the hammock, cooked simple meals, and even journaled. But on the third night, something shifted. It started subtly. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to what sounded like footsteps on the dock. Soft, wet slaps, as if someone barefoot was walking slowly back and forth. I froze in bed, heart pounding. The windows were open, summer breeze and all, and the sound was crystal clear. I told myself it was a raccoon or some animal, but the footsteps had rhythm, pacing, deliberate. In the morning, I went to check the dock. Nothing, not even a wet print. That day felt off. The air felt heavy, like the humidity had weight. I tried to shake it off. Did some yoga, went for a canoe, ride, but when I got back to the dock, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. There were carvings on the wooden railing, faint but definitely intentional. Long, looping spirals. They hadn't been there the day before. I ran my fingers along them. They were smooth, recent. Someone had made them. But who? That night, I barricaded the doors, turned off all the lights, just sat there in the dark with a kitchen knife in my lap, like some low-budget horror heroine. Then, the knocks started. 3 soft knocks. Not on the door. On the window behind me, I didn't look. I couldn't. My breath stopped. I remember trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Then the knocks came again. Louder, more urgent, still from the window right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. No one. Just the empty night and the tall black trees swaying at the edge of the lake. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I made a decision. I'd leave. Cut my retreat short. I packed everything, tossed it in the back of my SUV, and went to lock the front door. That's when I saw it. On the inside of the door, inside, those same spirals had been scratched into the wood, and below them, a word. Stay. I left without looking back. No goodbye. No last-minute photos of the lake. I drove until I hit cell signal, then kept driving. Weeks later, I couldn't shake the feeling that the house hadn't just been haunted. It had wanted me. Wanted someone. I checked the rental site. It was gone. Delisted. No record of it ever existing. But sometimes, at night, I hear those knocks in my dreams. And in those dreams, I always open the door. They say still water runs deep. But sometimes, what lies beneath the surface isn't just murky. It's malevolent. In this next story, we meet a man who just wanted to take his family on a quiet weekend getaway. But what he found in the lake was something no one should ever see. Something ancient, watching, waiting. If you've ever stared too long at a dark lake at night and felt your skin crawl, this story will hit too close to home. This is a true account, submitted anonymously. We'll call him Mark. My name isn't important. Let's just say I'm a husband and father of 2. A regular guy. This happened back in the fall of 2018. I'd rented a secluded lake house in Michigan for a long weekend with my wife and kids. The place looked like it came out of a postcard: pine trees, foggy mornings, and a dock that stretched out into calm, black water. The first night went fine. The kids roasted marshmallows and we sat by the fireplace playing board games. It felt like we were finally escaping the noise of everyday life. But the second night, something changed. I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing this faint sloshing sound coming from outside, like someone slowly wading through the water. It would stop, then start again. At first, I thought it was just a loon, or maybe a deer. But the pattern, it was too human. The steps were too even. I got up and walked to the back window. The moon was out, casting silver over the lake. And then I saw him. A man. Waist deep in the water. Just standing there, not moving. Staring straight at the house. He was maybe 40 feet from the dock. Too far to see his face, but I could tell. He wasn't wearing a shirt. Pale, almost bluish skin. Bald head. Arms just dangling. I blinked and he was gone. I stood there confused, scared. But I didn't want to wake my wife. I convinced myself it was just a dream or some sleepwalking. Camper, the woods are full of weirdos, right? The next morning I checked the dock. Nothing. No wet footprints, no disturbances. But that night, things escalated. Around midnight I heard whispering. Very faint but distinct, like someone mumbling just below my bedroom window. I froze. My wife was asleep. I pressed my ear to the wall and held my breath. It stopped. I didn't sleep after that. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, gripping the edge of the bed. At dawn, I went outside and saw something that made my stomach drop. On the dock. A small pile of wet lake weeds, arranged carefully, deliberately, as if someone had placed them there like a gift or a warning. I asked my kids if they went to the dock in the night. They both said no. My wife looked concerned, maybe more for my sanity than anything else. That evening, I told them we were leaving a day early. Bad weather, I said. But the truth was, I felt watched, constantly. And not just watched, studied. But before we left, my son, Jake, begged for one last canoe ride. I agreed. We paddled around the lake as the sun went down. It was quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds were silent. We stopped near the center of the lake, where the water looked almost black. That's when Jake whispered, "Dad, there's someone under us." I laughed, nervously. "What do you mean?" He pointed into the water. I leaned over, and my heart stopped. There was a face below us. Pale, wide-eyed, just under the surface, mouth slightly open like it had been, screaming for a long time and finally gave up. Then it moved, not swimming, not drifting, rising. I paddled us back to shore like a madman. Jake was crying. I didn't stop until we reached the dock, and even then, I didn't look back at the water. That night, I barely slept. At 3 a.m., the whispering came back, louder this time, clearer. Over and over it said, "Come back, come back, come back." We left before sunrise. When we got home, I checked the lake house reviews online. There were none. In fact, the listing was gone. No trace. I contacted the site, and they said no property by that name or address had been listed in over 5 years. I still don't know what we saw. A ghost? A hallucination? Some ancient thing that never really left the lake. But to this day, my son won't go near water. Won't swim. Won't even take a bath unless the door is open. And every once in a while, late at night, I swear I hear those words again, whispering in the dark corners of my mind. Come back. Sometimes the scariest part of a lake house isn't the water, the woods, or even what might be watching you from the trees. Sometimes it's the house itself, the walls, the floors, the foundation, something rooted in the land that should have never been built on. This final story comes from a woman named Danielle, who inherited a lake cabin from a distant uncle she never really knew. But when she stepped inside, it was like the house had been waiting, like it had a memory, and now it wanted her to remember too. When my great-uncle David died, I didn't expect to inherit anything. I barely knew him, just a strange man with a long beard who sent me birthday cards until I was 15 and then vanished. But apparently, he'd left me his summer retreat, a lake house in northern Minnesota. I was 27 at the time. Between jobs, freshly single, and curious, I figured, why not check it out? The first red flag was that no one could tell me exactly where the lake house was. The lawyer said the property hadn't been on any recent maps, and all I had was an old hand-drawn set of directions from the 1980s. Still, I drove 6 hours into the woods, got lost twice, and nearly turned around. But just before dusk, I found it a narrow dirt road. No signs, no lights. At the end, surrounded by thick forest and reeds, was the lake and the cabin. It was small, maybe 2 rooms, and half sunk into the ground, like the earth had tried to swallow it whole. The front porch was tilted, and parts of the dock were rotting into the water. Still, something about it pulled me in. The first night, I lit a fire and made tea. No electricity, no reception, just the sound of frogs and crickets and the gentle lap of water against the shore. I slept in the single twin bed inside, wrapped in an old wool blanket. But I kept waking up, not from noise, but from movement. The house was shifting, not creaking, moving, like it was breathing. Slowly, in and out. I thought I was dreaming, until I stepped outside at dawn, and saw it. The house had sunk an inch, just one. But it was noticeable. The front step was closer to the ground. The foundation looked lower. I brushed it off. Maybe frost heave. Maybe the ground was just settling. But it kept happening. Each night the house lowered, just a little. I marked the wall inside with a pencil. Every morning, lower. Then the dreams started. The first one was of my uncle, standing at the end of the dock, whispering in a language I didn't understand. He was barefoot, soaking wet, pale. When I called out to him, he didn't turn. The second night, I dreamed I was beneath the house, not inside it, under it, submerged, floating in darkness. Things brushed against me. I tried to scream, but water filled my lungs. The third night, I didn't dream. I woke up underwater. No joke. I bolted upright in the bed, and the room was dripping. The floor squelched. My blanket was soaked. Everything smelled like pond scum. Thought the roof had leaked. But the ceiling was dry. I checked the kitchen. Dry. Bathroom? Dry. Only the bedroom, soaked. And when I stepped outside, I saw it again. The house had sunk nearly half a foot. Panic hit me like ice water. I packed everything and ran to my car. But it wouldn't start. The air felt thick. The lake was boiling. Not literally, but steaming, like it was alive. Bubbling. Breathing. Like it wanted me to come closer. I swear. I heard my name whispered from the water. I called for help. No bars. Tried hiking back up the road. Got lost within 15 minutes. Everything looked the same. Trees too close together. No sounds. No wind. That night, I slept in the car. I locked the doors, rolled up the windows, and held a tire iron in my lap. At 3:33 a.m., I woke up to tapping on the window. I froze. A shape stood just outside. It was my uncle. Or something wearing his face. He smiled, opened his mouth. Lake. Water poured out. Then he was gone. I screamed, started the car. This time, it worked. I drove like a demon was behind me, headlights off, smashing through brush and mud until I found the highway. I never went back. A month later, I hired a local contractor to check the property. He called me after visiting and said, quote, "There's nothing here, lady. Just a patch of land near the lake and some rotted wood in the dirt. Like something used to be there and sank. You sure you got the right address?" I sent him a photo of the house I'd taken, the one with the porch and the dock. He texted me back one sentence. "That house hasn't stood for 30 years. I've deleted every photo since." I don't go near lakes. I can't even keep houseplants anymore. And at night, I still dream I'm under that cabin, sinking deeper. If you made it this far, congratulations. Not everyone can handle stories like these, but if your heart's still beating and your curiosity still burning, I've got a question for you. Have you ever stayed at a lake house and felt something wasn't quite right? Drop your story in the comments, because you never know. Your experience might be featured in the next episode. And if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Like the video, share it with someone who loves a good scare, subscribe for more true horror stories every week. Thanks for watching. And remember, the water is never as calm as it seems.